Prime Minister Carney spoke at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland this morning. He said great powers are using economic integration as weapons, and the old world order is not coming back. Our next guest calls his speech honest, brilliant, brave, and sobering. Joining us now is Laurie Turnbull, professor at the Faculty of Management at Dalhousie University. Professor, thanks as always for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Does this speech say Canada's back on the world stage as a player?
I mean, I think it says that. I think this is mostly the Prime Minister just kind of saying to all of us, listen, like, let's be real. The rules-based order that we tell ourselves is the international system is not true. And we need to grapple with that. And as a middle power, we have a choice to make about how we handle that. Are we going to try to protect ourselves and kind of hide ourselves and just, as he says in the speech, like build up more walls? Or are we going to be more proactive in how we deal with this? And so I think it gives a real framework to what the Prime Minister has been doing over the past while in terms of making new trade partnerships and with countries that we don't normally trade with as much, right? Like he's going down a path in our relationship with China that in the past while would not have been seen as even possible. And so I think it's an important moment for him for sure.
And who was the speech directed at, or were parts directed to different people?
I mean, certainly anytime a Prime Minister of Canada gives a speech, it is directed at Canada. He wants us to hear it. He wants us to think about this. It's telling us what his priorities are, and he's justifying what he's doing. But I think also he's talking to the world. He's talking to other middle powers who he thinks would be dealing in a similar kind of framework that Canada is at this particular point. I think he's calling on other countries, and this is kind of a connection back to a question and answer period he gave after the G20 a few months ago, where he was talking about how we can do this without the U.S., even if the U.S. doesn't want to be a good partner. The rest of the world is still most of the world's population, most of the world's trade. If the U.S. is offside, we can still manage it. And I think fundamentally, he's also he's giving this speech for Donald Trump. He's giving this speech for America, for them to hear that Canada is not going to be kind of boxed off in this relationship with a hegemonic power who is always going to be more powerful than we are.
And will Trump hear this, and will Americans hear this? What do you think their reaction will be?
Well, I mean, we definitely know that Trump listens when other people talk. He listens when other people talk about him. He's very thin-skinned. We know that. We know that sometimes when people make forceful statements like this, he can have a reaction. And so it will be interesting to see if he does react anytime in the near future or even down the road. Lately, he's been, even in response to the deal that the Prime Minister managed to make with China, his reaction was, oh, well, this is a good deal, even though other people around him are saying, oh, this is going to be problematic. So I think he heard, and I think, time will tell what his reaction will be. I
do find it fascinating because I either think he's incredibly brilliant or because we were all expecting to have this massive outburst after the China deal, yet it was so low key. I say, okay, good for you. Well done. Could this lead Canada into forming like a new kind of, we talked about maybe Canada maybe joining the EU. There was that kind of mold, but could we see new groups like that forming?
Yes, I think the Prime Minister is saying kind of broadly that the kinds of international organizations and partnerships and alliances that we've seen, that world is shifting. We are going in different directions now. Countries that had been in partnerships, maybe that's no longer fruitful for the partners anymore, and we're seeing a realignment. And so I think, again, this kind of justifies what he's been doing and also sets up expectations for what's to come. And I think, whether there's a joining the EU or not, I mean, I think he's kind of signaling in the event that the U.S. decides to follow what Trump wants to do in terms of Greenland, we're going to be there on the NATO side. I think that, again, like even to be talking about being on the other side of the U.S. on any issue of foreign policy is it's not usually where Canada is.
And then with China, I mean, there are dangers with that, and there are dangers we could get a reaction from the U.S. if we keep pushing a relationship with China.
100%, because I think Donald Trump means it when he talks about, he basically wants the U.S. to be in control in the Western Hemisphere, and he's not too not too quietly telling China to stay out. Essentially, he doesn't want to see Canada make a deal with China. He doesn't want to see us back away from the kinds of agreements that we had with the U.S. For example, the 100% tariffs on EVs. Like now, we're not going to be doing that for much longer, and I think Trump is going to react to what is basically a sovereign move on Canada's part. We're going to make our own foreign policy. We're going to make our own partnerships, and so that's going to get a reaction from him.
And what do you think this bodes for the CUSMA negotiations?
In some ways, I think it helps us to show up with a bit more presence. We're not showing up just as a smaller power. We're showing up in a way that we are bolstered and we are fortified by the relationships that we're making. We have a choice. The integrated supply chain, for example, in the auto industry that we have been so dependent on, we're going in a new direction now. We're going to be doing deals with China. We're going to perhaps be cooperating with them on their technology that could affect how we build our EVs. Like there are other fish in the sea, pretty big ones actually. And so I think that will either kind of make President Trump react in a sort of negative way, or he's going to perhaps see something to respect here in that Canada is not just kind of shying away as the smaller power.
All right, there's lots more to talk about this, but Laurie, Professor, we're out of time right now. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Laurie Turnbull is a professor at the Faculty of Management at Dalhousie University.